I remember the day everything changed, as if it were yesterday. The day I discovered the betrayal that would shatter my life. And yet, oddly enough, it would be the beginning of something far sweeter than anything I had with her. I've always considered myself a patient man, a good man. I worked hard, kept to myself, and did everything in my power to be a good husband to Claire, my wife. We'd been married for 7 years. 7 years of what I thought was bliss. Or at least, that's what I told myself every night before I went to bed. But all that changed in a single, fateful moment. It started like any other day. I had just gotten back from a grueling work meeting. As I walked through the front door of our house, I immediately noticed that something was off. Claire wasn't at home, which wasn't unusual. She was always busy with her job at the marketing firm. But what struck me was the strange feeling in the air. A feeling of tension. Something that didn't quite sit right with me. I shrugged it off at first. Maybe I was just tired. But then the signs started piling up. Small, seemingly innocent things, like the way Claire would glance nervously when she got off the phone, the way she started coming home late more often, the way her perfume would smell different. At first, I thought I was just being paranoid. After all, I trusted her. But when I found the receipt for a hotel I knew she'd never mentioned, my world came crashing down. I could have confronted her. I could have stormed into the house that night, yelling, demanding answers. But something inside me told me to hold back. If she was really betraying me, I wasn't going to give her the satisfaction of seeing me break. No, I wasn't going to confront her. Instead, I decided to let her think she was getting away with it. I was going to be patient. I was going to plan my revenge. I spent the next few weeks silently observing. I didn't confront her, but I kept track of her movements, her late nights, her strange behavior, the lies she told about her whereabouts. I knew there was someone else. I could feel it in my gut. And that's when I came up with my plan. I wasn't going to just confront her and end things right away. I was going to ruin her. I was going to destroy her career, her reputation, and the man who was behind all this, her affair partner. The first step of my plan was simple: cameras. I set up small, discreet cameras around the house. One in the living room, one in the bedroom, and one in the hallway. I needed proof. I couldn't just confront her based on suspicions. I needed the evidence to ensure that I'd have the upper hand when it came time to expose her. I spent hours setting everything up, all while pretending to be the same Mark she'd known for years. A few weeks passed, and my patience paid off. I finally got the footage I needed. It was the middle of the night when I watched her in the living room, laughing, whispering sweetly to some man. His face was obscured at first, but it didn't take long for the camera to catch his features. I froze when I saw his face. It was Tony, my best friend from high school. The one person I'd trusted more than anyone. Claire had been sleeping with Tony for months, right under my nose. It hurt more than I can express, knowing that the man I had considered a brother was the one betraying me along with my wife. But instead of breaking down in anger, something clicked in me. This wasn't just about Claire anymore. This was about me getting back the power, about me reclaiming what was mine. I didn't confront Claire. I didn't yell or scream. I sat back, watched the footage, and smiled. I was going to make sure both of them paid. I started planning my next move. I knew that I couldn't just leave things up to chance. I needed to take control of the narrative. The first step was simple: anonymously leaking the footage. I posted the videos online, on websites, forums, even social media, making sure they'd reach the right people. I didn't care who saw them, just that they reached everyone Claire and Tony had ever known. The videos quickly went viral. Within hours, Claire's face was plastered all over the internet, her infidelity exposed for the world to see. Her career, a promising one at that, began to fall apart. Clients withdrew, colleagues distanced themselves, and her reputation crumbled. As for Tony, well, his life wasn't much better. His family disowned him. His colleagues at the firm saw the videos, and suddenly his career was in jeopardy. The aftermath was a whirlwind. Divorce papers were filed. Claire, once the woman I had loved, was reduced to nothing more than a pariah. I never had to say a word to her. The world did the talking for me. In the months that followed, my life began to change. It wasn't easy. It never is when you're starting over. But I kept my head up. My promotion at work came through. Just as I had hoped. I was climbing the ladder, becoming a man that even I didn't recognize. And that was just the beginning. One night, while grabbing a drink at a local bar, I met someone. Her name was Liz. She was stunning. Blonde hair, a smile that lit up the room. And when we started talking, I could feel the connection instantly. Liz was smart, confident, and beautiful. She had a passion for life that reminded me of a time before everything with Claire had happened. We spent the night talking, laughing, and before I knew it, I was finding reasons to spend more and more time with her. Liz wasn't like Claire. She wasn't perfect, but she was real. And for the first time in a long time, I felt alive again. Meanwhile, Claire's life was in ruins. She tried reaching out to me once, begging for forgiveness. But I had no interest in listening. The damage was done, and there was no going back. I had won, and it felt better than I ever could have imagined. But I didn't just want revenge. I wanted to build something new. Something better. Liz and I started dating, and life began to feel like it had been reset. I wasn't the same man I had been before. I had grown, learned from my pain, and come out stronger. Claire's betrayal had turned my life upside down. But it had also set me free. I no longer had to live in the shadow of her lies. Months later, I stood in my new office, looking out the window at the city below. It was quiet, peaceful, and for the first time in a long while, I was content. I had my career, my new life with Liz, and a sense of power I hadn't known before. The revenge I'd taken wasn't just about destroying Claire or Tony. It was about reclaiming my life. And as I looked at Liz sitting across the room, her eyes full of warmth and promise, I knew that I was finally where I belonged.